fed up of people throwing moral superiority. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, that's not very kind. I don't care. I don't want one more girl's life destroyed by open-door immigration, which is dangerous. It is wrecking our country. It is wrecking our security.
Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the British Report, where we peel back the layers of Westminster's finest spin to reveal the absolute chaos simmering underneath. Today, we are diving into a confrontation so explosive, so utterly devoid of diplomatic niceties, that it has left the internet in a state of collective shock. We are talking about a talk TV broadcast that went from 0 to 100 miles per hour in the time it takes to say open borders. It is the moment a high-profile host finally reached their breaking point with a Labour councillor who, quite frankly, seemed to be living in a completely different reality to the rest of the country. This isn't just a debate, it is a total cultural collision caught on camera. Quick favour, if you are loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It is free, takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show.
When you look at some of the reports coming out, especially the sex attacks on young girls, this isn't a trumped-up, overblown, oh, we're just handpicking the odd case that an asylum seeker or migrant has committed this crime. It's day after day after day. And, I mean, look, for instance, this month, the rape in Leamington Spa, I'm not sure I even know about this one, had a reporting restriction placed on the case because the defence lawyer said the video the victim took of the attack was so harrowing, it risked disorder if the public saw it. In addition, Sultani Bakatash, also an Afghan national charged with the rape of 2 teenage girls in Bolton, Dawajan Ahmadzai, another Afghan national found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault of a child. These are women and girls! These are little children having their lives destroyed! Someone's got to take responsibility for this. Surely somebody's head has to roll.
Yeah, it's complex, isn't it? And look, I think I agree with you on the top line. It's not complex.
It's blimmin' easy. It's easy, Sebastian. You don't let men in from misogynistic medieval cultures where they stone women to death. You just say no. No. You got nothing to do with us. You're not coming in.
If you have been following the news lately, you will know that the temperature in the British migration debate has moved past simmering and straight into volcanic. Just this week, we have seen figures confirming that over 41,000 people have crossed the English Channel in small boats during the last year. That is not a statistic, that is a small city arriving on the beaches of Kent. And while the British public is looking at their energy bills and wondering how on earth the state can afford to house tens of thousands of people in 4-star hotels, we have politicians, specifically of the woke variety, who seem more concerned with the feelings of the arrivals than the futures of the people paying the taxes.
Afghanistan, for one, sorry, no, you pose too much of a risk to women and children. We've already brought in everyone that, seems to say they've got some sort of connection to the British military. I'm sorry, now we've looked at what's happening to our own, and you protect women and girls first, no to you, no to Eritrea. You can get those statistics of the people who are committing the worst possible crimes and just say no. Hungary's said no. Poland has said no. America's saying no. We get to say no. We're not the YMC blimmin' A of everybody in some far-flung, brutal, brutish, grim country who suddenly decides they want to live here. No. It's easy.
Well, let's start with where we agree, I think, which is that living under the Taliban is really, really horrible. And there will be many people who don't agree with the Taliban. And often, I don't know if you've noticed this, I certainly have, many people who leave these regimes and who you meet in real life, they leave because they hate what is happening in their own country. So they're completely at odds with the attitude of the Taliban towards women. And therefore, I think it would be really problematic to essentially tar everyone with the same brush, to say, I'm sorry, we've looked at the statistics and many of your people...
The scene was set on Talk TV, a platform that has become the front line for these kinds of unfiltered exchanges. On one side, we had a host who has clearly had enough of the official narrative. On the other, a Labour councillor who appeared to have swallowed a sociology textbook and was busy reciting the compassion chapter while the studio lights started to melt from the sheer tension. The host started with a simple question: how can we justify spending £6 million a day on asylum hotels when British pensioners are being told to turn their heating off? It is the kind of common sense query that usually gets a politician scurrying for their context notes. But the councillor didn't scurry. She doubled down. She started talking about international obligations and human rights frameworks, as if she were addressing a seminar at the LSE rather than a public that is increasingly feeling like second-class citizens in their own postcodes.
A couple of things I'd say to that. The first is that they are going there. The majority of the countries that take the most asylum seekers are in the Islamic world. By far, even in Europe, we fall behind France and Germany in terms of the numbers we take. And secondly, as I say, a lot of these people don't want to go to other misogynistic cultures. They don't like what they're living under in the Taliban, and who can blame them? It's awful. And therefore, they're seeking somewhere with better values. And I would like to think that Britain does have those better values, that we do treat women.
We do, but unfortunately, when you keep hearing day after day, can't even show the video of one sex attack because it's too harrowing. I'm sorry, we've had the grooming gang scandal. We're now beginning to see regularly what is happening to girls. Sebastian, come on. As a country, we just go, no. We can say no. It doesn't make us bad people to go, do you know what? Actually, I'm a bit worried and I want to protect our daughters of this nation first. Yeah, would you let anybody homeless come and live in your house? Just anyone, because they're homeless?
I'm not entirely sure where you're going with this.
Well,
the host's face went through a fascinating transformation, moving from polite disbelief to what I can only describe as active volcanic activity. You could practically see the steam rising from the earpiece. The councillor, seemingly oblivious to the danger, then made the fatal mistake of suggesting that the British public's concern over illegal crossings was fuelled by misinformation. That was the moment the host lost it. The desk was thumped, the voice was raised, and the woke script was torn to shreds in real time. Misinformation, the host bellowed. Is the fact that hotels are being taken over in our coastal towns misinformation? Is the £15 billion projected cost for asylum accommodation over the next decade misinformation? Or is it just a reality that you find politically inconvenient?
I don't really think you can make the comparison there.
But
the sad truth is, and look, I think any rape that is committed is a tragedy. Of course it is, but there are so many that are being committed by people in this country. Look, I know you're being so like
that's our problem. We're going to have rapists and paedophiles and monsters in this country, fine. It doesn't mean we have to import a load of them from countries who statistically have a, proclivity towards that behaviour. And statistically, it is borne out with empirical data. Why are we prioritising them instead of the safety of girls, Sebastian? Come on!
Hang on, Alex, because you just told me that you don't think it's realistic to punish civil servants retrospectively when they allow people in and then they go on to commit a rape. And that's exactly what we're facing here. None of us know who a future rapist is. It could be an Afghan, it could be a Brit, it could be a Frenchman, it could be a German. Anybody could be a future rapist, and we can't guess who they are.
It was a total destruction of the Westminster bubble mentality. For years, these councillors and activists have operated on the assumption that if they use enough buzzwords, diversity, inclusion, global responsibility, the awkward questions about resources and sovereignty will simply go away. But the host wasn't playing that game. They pointed out that as of January 2026, the Home Office is still struggling with a backlog that is draining the Treasury faster than a burst pipe. We are talking about a system that is not just creaking, it has fundamentally collapsed. And yet there she was, defending the indefensible with a smile that suggested she thought she was winning the moral high ground. Let us look at the Labour logic on display here, because it is truly a marvel of modern engineering. They claim to be the party of the working class, yet they are the first to defend a system that puts immense pressure on social housing, school places and GP surgeries in the very areas where working people live. It is a bit like a landlord telling a tenant their roof is leaking because we have an international obligation to let the rain in. It makes no sense to the person getting wet. The councillor tried to pivot to the smuggling gangs, claiming that Labour's new Border Security Command would solve everything. But as the host sharp-wittedly pointed out, the gangs are just the delivery service. The product is a British asylum system that is effectively a giant neon sign saying free housing and no deportations.
Wrong about doing
someone of doing something that they haven't done yet. That's just a basic fact of the law and of time, frankly.
Look, I don't want these people here at all. Not one.
But the reality is that most of them aren't rapists. It really
I don't care anymore.
Being so rude towards Afghans and towards other people who, most of them are just normal people like you and me. Some of them are nice, some of them are annoying, some of them are selfish, some of them are this and that. They're just normal people, and that we are tarring them all as rapists, I think is really, really unfair.
I'm not tarring them all as rapists. I'm saying statistically, it is borne out in fact. It is borne out in fact that men from that country are more likely to commit a sexual crime than men from other nations. And our first priority as a country is the safety of our children. Okay, We're not a civilised nation if we don't go along with that. If instead we prioritise Lord knows who from Lord knows where. It's a madness.
The host's anger wasn't just about the migrants, it was about the absolute contempt for the British taxpayer. There was a particularly punchy one-liner that I think summed up the entire mood of the country. You are more worried about the comfort of someone who broke into the country than the survival of someone who has paid into it for 40 years. The councillor actually looked stunned. She had no retort because there is no retort to that in the court of public opinion. She tried to bring up the European Convention on Human Rights, but at this point that felt about as relevant as a Blockbuster membership card in a Netflix world. People are tired of being told that rights only seem to apply to everyone except the law-abiding majority.
Give me the recap now, very quickly.
Do you want me to actually Google it? Because I really don't have time to replay a whole documentary.
But feel free
to go and watch it. I don't have it at the top of my head. I'm not a blimmin' robot, but you can go and watch it straight after this if you like. It was made with the New Culture Forum. It's called Europe's Rape Crisis, and every single statistic in that has been researched. It's come from the crime statistics of all the countries that publish crime statistics by nationality. It involves the incarceration statistics in this country, which is the only statistics we currently have. But you can just look, actually, by opening a newspaper every single day at what is going on. Or do you know what, Sebastian? How about one day you and I play a game of let's walk around London together. I will wear a dress, have my blonde hair out and some high heels. You can walk about 10 paces behind me. We'll go to certain neighbourhoods and you can see what people like me have to go through. Or perhaps you want to go and claim all these men are normal to the mothers of the girls whose lives have been destroyed.
The suspense in the studio was palpable. You could hear a pin drop during the host's final monologue, which was a masterclass in righteous indignation. They brought up the fact that while we are being told there is no money for local services, the government is finding billions for a system that has no deterrence and no end in sight. The councillor sat there blinking, looking like a deer caught in the headlights of a very loud truck. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated reality breaking through the progressive fog. And the best part, she couldn't even bring herself to acknowledge that the crossings are illegal. To her, they are just irregular arrivals. It is that kind of linguistic gymnastics that makes the public want to throw their television sets out the window. As the segment drew to a close, the host didn't hold back. The public isn't misinformed, they concluded. The public is ignored, and politicians like you are the reason why the trust in our democracy is at an all-time low. It was a mic drop moment that has been shared across social media thousands of times already. It perfectly captured the feeling that the elite are more interested in virtue signalling to their peers in Brussels than protecting the borders of Britain. So what does this tell us about the state of our politics in 2026? It tells us that the reset promised by the government is failing. It tells us that the common sense majority is finally finding its voice, and it is a voice that is loud, angry, and utterly finished with the excuses of the woke activists. Whether you are in a boardroom in London or a cafe in Blackpool, the sentiment is the same. A country without borders isn't a country, it's a car park.
Way!
As an argument to say all brown men or all Afghans or something.
Oh, you don't! You don't, Sebastian! What are you
trying to say? What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is there are certain cultures that persist, that think that women who perhaps are not from their culture, who aren't covered up with a hijab, are fair game, who don't have the same cultural mores as we do because they've not been brought up here, who've sat on their phone, looked at pornography, see a girl with blonde hair and think she's easy meat. That is reality. And until we can listen to women, until we can protect women and children, we're failing. We're failing as a country, and I'm fed up of people throwing moral superiority. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, that's not very kind. I don't care. I don't want one more girl's life destroyed by open-door immigration, which is dangerous. It is wrecking our country. It is wrecking our security. We don't know who are terrorists. We don't know who've committed offences. We don't know who's on the run for that reason. I don't care. It is reckless. It's like getting behind the wheel of a car high on drugs. Oh, some people might be able to drink 10 pints and drive perfectly safely. Other people can't. That's why you're not allowed to drink and drive. So no more of this nonsense where women are being made to feel like there's something wrong with them because men aren't listening when we're saying this can't continue. It's not okay.
I want to know what you think down in the comments. Was the host right to lose their cool, or do you think the councillor was just trying to show a bit of human decency? Is the migrant crisis the issue that will eventually sink this government, or is there a way out that doesn't involve bankrupting the nation? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single one of them, and I promise to be a lot more polite than the host was. If you want to stay updated on these explosive debates and get the real story behind the headlines, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the British Report. We are living through some of the most chaotic times in our history, and we will be here every step of the way to break it down for you with a bit of wit and a lot of honesty. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Thank you for watching the British Report.